Welcome to the Water Babies Podcast. This week we are joined by Stephen Weimer, Joshua Weimer, and Lindsay Weimer because we could only afford one last name. We will be talking about Bigfoot and other things. Probably will meander and go into some really stupid things that we'll end up regretting and cringing at later on the Water Babies Podcast. Am I talking now? Okay, good. That was People Are Stupid and I'm Mad About It by Geriatric Genocide.
I feel like that was directed towards me.
Are you old? Yes. Never mind. We are the Water Babies Podcast. We are joined by people who've already been mentioned. And we have a guest today. Kyle, how are you today, sir?
Doing well. How's everybody doing?
I think I'm doing good.
Okay.
But Steven's already being cranky with me, so we'll see how well this goes. Seriously, though, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I always say, we've already been introduced, so I don't introduce us, but I've had people tell me that they are actually having a hard time distinguishing between Steven and I, our voices. So we're going to go around the circle, and because there is some odd chance that maybe Lindsay will also be confused with me and Steven, she's also going to introduce herself. So I'll start. I'm Josh. You can tell I'm Josh because I sound really cool and smart and speak very fluidly and don't ever get in the middle of a sentence and realize don't know where I'm going with it.
And I'm Steven, and you can tell I'm Steven because I sound even cooler and also speak more fluently than the previous person.
I said fluidly. I never claimed to speak fluently.
Well, yeah, so I speak more fluently.
All right. It's hard to argue with that.
All right, and I'm Lindsay, and you can tell I'm me because I'm me, and I'm not a jerk like those two, so.
And on that happy start. All right, Kyle, something I always like to ask our guests. We just have a couple of cursory questions.
Okay.
Tell me your background with cryptozoology, ufology, the paranormal, just all the weird stuff. Do you have any interesting stories?
Well, not too familiar with the cryptozoology, Bigfoot and all that stuff. I do find it very interesting, but I had once seen a UFO.
Wow.
Yeah. It was the high desert in California, Mojave Desert, which is the same desert that lies in Area 51, but I was in California.
Holy heck, you run me through the circumstances. How old were you? What was going on at the time? And what exactly did you see?
Well, I believe I was probably 8 or 9, and I used to just go outside. We didn't have too much light pollution, so look up at the stars. Me and my sister would go out and enjoy the night sky and see, we used to climb up on the roof and enjoy the evening, just bug out or whatever. And I was out by myself this night. I just decided to look up at the sky, and from my perspective, it looked like what I saw the craft looked to be the same size and shape as a star. It was just sitting idly there. And then all of a sudden, it moved. The distance, I had no comparison because it was the same size and shape, but
right. It
did seem to orbit 2 stars very slowly, and then it just took off like a bat out of hell. Wow. It was gone.
Did your sister see it too?
No. She wasn't there. No.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
I've always wanted to see something like that, but
yeah,
alas, never happened. I think that there is something to it of just always being too drunk that I'm usually looking at the ground trying to make sure I don't trip. There might be something. I'm kidding. That's not true. All right, Lindsay, do you have a segment for us?
I do. So the segment that shall not be named tonight is, as always, I'm going to give you a disease name, and you have to guess what the disease might be based on the name. This one came to me today when I was trying to think of a disease because we have relatives by this name, but they're not diseases. So it's Graves' disease.
So I'm going first? Is that what the stare means?
No, I'm trying to think.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there's a character in League of Legends called Graves. Every single one of these diseases, I've been like, there's a character in League of Legends, and I've been waiting for you to respond to that.
You held back up to this point. At least. I respect that. It's like, not that this podcast could make us look any nerdier, but that may have been the line.
Graves disease.
Oh my goodness. Every time.
Hello and welcome to the Graves' Disease podcast.
Kyle, do you want to go or should I go? Well, we give him a second.
I had to guess. Something with the nervous system. That's my guess. I don't know.
I agree. I'm going to expand on that. So, nervous system, we know a lot of neurological systems make you shake. The band Shaky Graves, I don't know exactly what type of music they play, but I imagine it's some sort of like crappy country. So it's a disease that makes you play crappy country music.
Okay.
Well, while you're shaking, you kind of just like, you convulse and end up strumming out really simple chords on the guitar. And that was my first insensitive comment to that show.
I'm thinking that it's something that you pick up from unwell taken care of graves.
You're not dirty graves?
Yeah, I really want to know what's an
Can't
unwell
too good of
taken
these
care
graves,
of.
Otherwise, people get out here getting graves saved.
There was like grave robbers were right there, and you didn't even go with that. You went with an unwell taken care of grave.
Well, maybe that's what it means. Like, it's the mafia, well taken care of. It's like, we will take care of that grave. That's not a saying.
Okay.
So tell us how right we were.
Not very. It sometimes attacks the nervous system, but it is the overproduction of thyroid.
Oh, I
synthesis.
have an idea of what it is.
After you heard what it was?
I'm thinking that it's the overproduction of thyroid.
The thyroid gland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Actually, I think I know it. I'm not going to keep doing this.
The thyroid gland controls so many other hormones through the body that it can really mess with you. But great. So there are a lot of symptoms: lack of sleep, weight loss, even if you're eating normally, anxiety and irritability, fine tremors of hands or fingers. So there you go. And heat sensitivity. It is usually, okay, not usually, but the way that they teach us in science class to know Graves' disease is the main characteristic of it that like really stands out from other thyroid diseases is bulging eyes.
Nice.
And it looks really painful, but the pictures of people with Graves' disease, their eyes will actually be way bigger and bulging out of their eyelids. Wow. So treatment for it is there's a couple of ways. Kill off part of your thyroid, surgically remove it, or give you medicine that interferes with the thyroid medicine, like the thyroid hormone.
See,
so
I don't know why you started on this one to tell us how to get rid of it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be
know.
helpful for us. You should not be leaving it up to me to kill part of your thyroid.
I'm writing a paper about this, so
okay,
you have to do treatment.
You didn't tell me how to cure the brain-eating cannibal disease. That feels like it'd be a lot more helpful.
That. There is no cure for
Well, that's
Fayon's
bleak.
disease.
I understand now why you wouldn't tell me that.
So I just didn't feel like I needed to tell you that. But also I'm writing a paper about this, so I actually researched it a little more.
All right, two more statements to make.
Okay.
So firstly, what the heck does heat sensitivity mean?
Like
so
you get overheated really easily.
Oh, okay, because I was like picturing people catching on fire more easily or something like that.
No, that's human combustion.
It's not actually that. Cool.
Yeah.
Is that what the podcast is about?
We should do a podcast about it.
Feels like we're not really qualified to do that, but it's never stopped us yet. All right, Steven, what do you got? And there is no second thing. Forget I said the second thing.
Well, I think you said two first things, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Two first things.
So today we're going to be talking about Indrid Cold.
Yeah. Cool.
I swear I still need to figure out how to introduce this stuff.
Yeah, introducing it and then pausing.
Well, especially after you told me to go ahead and not worry about leaving pauses in it.
So Indrid Cold.
All right, you have a script right in front of you. This should not be a Graves' disease
situation. Am I supposed to guess what this is?
Say what?
Am I supposed to guess what this is?
Yes. Guess what Indrid Cold is. Also known as the Smiling Man.
Oh.
Do any of you know what Indrid Cold is?
I hadn't heard of it. Sorry.
No, I tried looking it up, but the only thing I could find associated with it was the Mothman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's as far as
Well, kind of.
goes.
So I guess this is starting into it. There were 3 main encounters that were that kind of make up the Indrid Cold story. The first encounter, he was seen in or on October 16th, 1966. 2 boys, Martin Munov and James Yonchitis. I don't know how to pronounce those, but they were in New Jersey, and they were walking down a street. I forget what street, but they did clarify it was like 4th Street or something like that. Whatever.
And that's the type of context we need being in Idaho.
Yeah.
Like now, like I don't even have to be to Jersey, and I know exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
4th Street, Jersey.
Yes. When they saw, so they were walking down the street when they saw a figure standing near a fence. The figure was an unusually tall, bald man with no ears or nose, wearing a metal green suit. He was staring right at them with a huge grin. Then he chased them until they got away from him. That was the first encounter.
And that was in Jersey?
Yeah, that was in New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was on October 16th, 1966. Then a month later, in November 2nd, in Parksburg, West Virginia. This was around the same area and time as the Mothman. That whole everything with the Mothman story. This was about that same time and in the same area. A guy named Woodrow Derenberger. Do you know how to pronounce that? I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, something like that.
Right.
Derenberger.
It's French, so it'd be like Derenberger.
Derenberger. Woodrow was driving his way home on Interstate 77 when he heard a crash. A vehicle was speeding behind him, and it suddenly cut in front of him and slowed down. He described it as, in his word, an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney, flaring at both ends, narrowing down to a small neck, and then enlarging in a great bulge in the center.
And he's
I
calling
believe
this
that's
a
actually-
vehicle?
What?
Did you say a vehicle that
Yeah.
was shaped like this?
Yep, that's what he was saying. It was a vehicle that was chasing him, then, or like it sped past him and then like slowed down in front of him and stopped, like it cut him off and stopped. Then the grinning man, or Indrid Cold, well, the grinning man came out of the vehicle with I don't know why in these stories, every time I was researching, they kept mentioning how he had a dark tan, but then they mentioned how like police officers had a dark tan and how these other people had dark tan. I don't know why they...
Well, it was the 60s. This is a really racist time.
Yeah,
But they're probably like, looking through their eyes of, revisionist history. So like they didn't use the word or the phrase dark tan. That's a nicer way to put what they'd actually said at the time. Because again, 60s
Not a good
and in
time.
West Virginia.
So anyways, yeah, he came, a grinning man came out of the vehicle with a dark tan and walked up to Woodrow and telepathically said his name was Indrid Cold, and he meant no harm. Cold said he just wanted to know more about the human race. Woodrow again. After the encounter, Woodrow stated that Cold revealed he was from the planet Lanulos.
And it's French, so it'll be Relayonos.
In the galaxy of Ganymedes.
Ganymedes.
Yeah. And so that was the second sighting. That's actually the more known sighting. That's like the big sighting. The other 2 that I have on here were lesser known.
And that was the great one that when we were doing research, we also found out what actresses from the 60s did nude scenes.
Oh,
That
I
was on
forgot
that
about
same
that.
thread. That was
Some
very
That seems
Weird,
expensive.
stupid.
That seems like a very important piece of information for
Right.
this.
Oh, and it's like such a smooth transaction. It was literally, talking about this, and the very next thing it was like, did Ethel Merman ever do a nude scene? It was seamless. I could totally see what led him to asking that question.
The third sighting happened in a family called the Lillies. It was in their house. They were living in a rural section of Point Pleasant, which also is where the whole Mothman things was going on. They had witnessed strange lights in the sky above their home every night, as well as unexplained manifestations inside of their home. Mrs. Lilly said automobiles near their home stalled without explanation. Doors and kitchen cabinets inside the home slammed in the middle of the night while everyone was asleep. The living room door, which was chained and snap locked at night, was standing wide open the next morning, as if someone had somehow opened it from the outside. They heard loud metallic sounds like a pan falling. She continued to say she heard a sound like a baby crying throughout the home. It seemed to originate only a few feet away from her in the house, but no infants were present, and she never saw anything. John A. Keel, who personally investigated and questioned the Lilly family, asked them, "Did you ever dream that there was a stranger in the house in the middle of the night?" Linda, who was their daughter, then confessed her story. She described how she woke up one night and saw a very large figure towering over her bed. She says it was a man, a big man, very broad. I couldn't see his face very well, but I could see that he was grinning at me. Lily said that she heard a terrible scream that night, and Linda ran into her room screaming.
I mean, isn't that the like most common sleep paralysis vision?
Yeah.
That you run away screaming?
There's some tall man staring at you.
Standing over you.
Someone sitting on you in the bed or something.
Yeah, they say not just in sleep paralysis, but they say that's like one of the most common just like hallucinations or nightmares. Mm-hmm. Is that because there's just something totally visceral that's like pretty much written into our DNA for that to be terrifying to us.
Yeah.
So
which I think that actually means that, you know, back in the day, there was another race of people who didn't have faces and they were jerks.
And we still know about it?
Yeah, like I said, written into our DNA. Mm. Some animals know how to instinctively swim. We know how to make alcohol instinctively. We didn't have to figure that out. And that people without faces are freaky.
I mean...
And it's pretty true. Like, if I ever met someone without a face, I'd be freaked out.
And
that's just some hardcore DNA going on.
I mean, I don't know how to make alcohol. I mean, I know the basics, but...
We'll talk about this later.
Okay.
You shamed wimers everywhere.
So anyways, those are the three main encounters with Indrid Cold. Woodrow, the guy on that ran into him in Interstate 77, ended up encountering him quite a few times throughout his life shortly after. Like, he even had... Apparently the news had gotten a hold of the story and it like blew up, and he even had like people or whole crowds sitting outside of his house just waiting to see Indrid Cold themselves. And apparently he'd been like, Indrid Cold would telepathically talk to him a lot, and he even at one point teleported him took him on a ship, and they flew to Lonalos or whatever his name, the planet that he was from was, and then like brought him back. And like, yeah, his life kind of, unfortunately, his whole, it kind of was he had a pretty tragic life because of it. Like, because of just everyone there and people threatening him and stuff like that. He ended up, he never discounted that what he was saying wasn't true or anything like that, he never discounted that it was true, but he did stop talking about it after a while because it was just causing too many issues. Like, he ended up getting a divorce and having to leave the state for most of it, or for the later half of his life, and so on. So
gotcha.
That's fun. Yeah.
Oh, he also does have an interview. I actually didn't get the time to watch it. I was interested in watching it, but it's like an hour or so where he was interviewed by, I'm not sure who, about Indrid Cold and his encounter with him, and like his life story involving it and so on. And apparently that interview is actually in the Mothman Museum, which I did not know there was a Mothman Museum.
Well, I mean, John Keel is the same guy who wrote the Mothman Prophecy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy has some interesting stuff too. I actually looked into him a little bit as well.
Yeah, so I find the one where it's like the two little boys, since there's two of them, or the one where it's a family, a little more compelling than the one guy, though. It's a little harder.
Well, is he used as a sewing machine salesman?
Woodrow?
Yeah.
I
The
can't
repairman,
remember.
something like that.
Yeah.
That
It
is
was
the most reputable of professions. And as we know, little boys lie. And when there's 2 of them, that's twice as many lies. And you already dismissed the ladies thing, saying it was just sleep paralysis.
It really did sound like
So,
sleep
like
paralysis.
really early in it to be arguing against yourself.
I mean, it really did seem like sleep paralysis.
And now, time for unpopular opinions about popular cryptids. Yay! Is that the same area that I did the Kermit the Frog thing last time?
Yeah.
I'm getting this down, man. I don't even have to write a theme song for this.
That's actually what I was thinking. You need to write something for it.
No, like I said, I got it down. You can't even tell that wasn't Kermit the Frog.
Okay.
And there's no explanation as to why I chose Kermit the Frog's weird yay thing to be the intro for my segment.
Oh, was that?
Stop interrupting me. This is unpopular opinions about popular cryptids, and it is my time to shine. Thank you for joining me. This week we'll be speaking about the Chupacabra.
So
Now,
Steven's favorite cryptid, just to be clear.
Like I said, popular cryptid.
No. No.
Oh, come on. This is the reason I chose this
It's
one.
the only one you've ever said anything that you
It's like the
believed
only
it
one
could
I
be
know
real.
of is why.
Dude, you're supposed to be the expert.
Yeah, I sound very experty when I'm like, oh yeah, I did all the research and this is what I discovered in my research.
I think that's what expert means, right?
Yeah. I don't do research on it. So.
Unpopular opinions about popular cryptids. The Chupacabra. First off with the Chupacabra, y'all need to at least decide what this thing looks like. Does this thing look like something that's standing on 2 legs, freaky goat sucking looking vampire thing? Or does it look like a coyote with the mange? It can't be both. That's obviously not the same thing. Get on the same page, people. Second of all, if it is just the mangy coyote, why are we still saying it's a Chupacabra? Why are we not trying to help these mangy coyotes? We can go ahead. The point of genetic engineering we're at, we can make our own Chupacabra. We don't need to have some animal suffering just so we can have the illusion of something going on.
I don't think
And
that's
quite
a good
honestly,
idea.
the 2-legged walking around vampire goat sucker thing, that's so much cooler than just like a animal that makes me sad to look at it. I want to be afraid for my life. And
Are
that
you
concludes
okay?
my segment.
Oh yeah, there's not a second segment this time.
Oh, I could. I mean, if it's not obvious from the last ones, like I didn't really come up with those games ahead of time. It was always right in the middle of the podcast I came up with. You guys
So-
love them so much.
What do you guys think of Indrid Cold, or were there other questions?
I'm sure there will be, but none are springing to my mind. I'm going to wait till I'm like halfway through my argument and then ask you to verify stuff or yell at you if you say it's wrong. One of the two.
I don't think it's real. I'm just gonna put it out there. It sounds like sleep paralysis, and then it's like one guy with an imaginary friend.
Imaginary friend? Did your imaginary friend rear end you in the middle of the night driving a freaking lantern? That didn't come from anywhere, man. That has to be real because it is so specific about what type of vehicle it was. And
It sounded like a
this
chimney.
grinning man. Yeah, okay, so he got rear-ended by a chimney. That makes a ton more sense.
Or he was like driving drunk and got rear-ended or something, or backed into something, and then had to explain it away.
Then how come it's congruent with all the other stories? First of all,
He heard something.
Let's respect the rules before we get at each other's throats.
We have rules.
There are no rules. No. So normally we let each other formulate actual structured arguments. Would you like to start, or would you like me to start?
You're just gonna tell me I'm stupid. That's your structured
That's
argument.
where it always goes, Lindsay. But you keep coming back.
Okay, what's your argument?
Well, first of all, you're stupid. No, I'm sorry. So, first of all, like I said, the continuity between the stories. When there's continuity between that separated by such great distances, there's pretty big distance between Jersey and West Virginia. The 2 towns are fairly close. I can't remember exactly how close they were, but I think it was within 100 miles, if I remember correctly. So I can see that becoming like the local lore. And so someone imagined the second sighting based off of the description from the first sighting. I can kind of see that. But where you have all the way up in Jersey, something that was very similar in description happening makes me think that there's something to it. Also, it sounds like Woodrow was like a pretty legit dude. like from everything I read, I mean, I didn't hear anyone outright say like he had a propensity for mental illness or for lying or anything like that.
He actually did go to he did go to a hospital and got cleared that he didn't have any mental illnesses.
Okay. You don't have to be
once again, you're on my side and let me talk when it's on your side.
Well, you just need to like come up with a hand signal like, hey Josh, I'm going to agree with you, and like totally blow your mind that I'm agreeing with you. You come up with a hand sign for that. Shut up. I was already committed. I had to do it. That's the bulk of my argument.
Okay. Am I cutting you off? Okay. So here's the thing, though. Do you know what else the boys were describing? Slender Man. So
okay, sorry, go ahead.
So everyone knows the story of Slender Man. Everyone knows the story of Slender Man. And he's really well known. And so I think I can definitely write off those boys by saying
he's the most popular.
He is the most popular, unfortunately.
Does Slender Man smile widely and chase you while he's smiling?
Right, I think that's no, that's the part of Slender Man is he doesn't have a face.
Yeah, but sometimes you can
and
see
also
his
like
mouth.
Didn't it describe Indrid Cold's suit as shiny and green?
Yeah, and that part doesn't because the Slender Man wears the suit. There's like a suit.
Well, I'm
like
not past
suit.
saying like I would even maybe say that Slender Man is Indrid Cold, but also Indrid Cold did introduce himself as Indrid Cold. So Slender Man is what he's passed into our vernacular as, because for whatever reason he doesn't have contact with us anymore, other than when he's apparently chasing people through the woods or
like making them
I still
kill
don't know
each
what
other.
he does. It's like as soon as people start talking about Slender Man, I stop listening. So I'm not 100% sure what Slender Man does.
It's like kids and teens. He convinces them to do bad things. Like,
okay,
yeah, there was a case a few years ago of 2 girls
tried to kill her friend.
tried to kill her friend. Yeah,
Oh.
and she said Slender Man made her do it.
Wow, Indrid, man.
But anyway, as you were describing this guy, the grinning man, it sounded a lot like Slender Man, except for Slender Man wears a 3-piece suit, not a shiny suit.
So it could be possible that the Slender Man is part of his race, just someone else.
I'd go ahead and I'd go along with that, but I would say that does not make Indrid Cold not valid.
Or he changed his outfit. Too.
Yeah, because then that would mean there's Slender Man and Indrid Cold.
But again, isn't that part of like the Slender Man lore that he doesn't have a face?
Well, because like Indrid Cold didn't have a nose or ears.
He doesn't have a face, but you can sometimes see his mouth. I think.
I am totally at your guys' mercy here, so I have no idea.
It really could be like from the same race.
So the thing with Slender Man is he's one that's so famous that there's so many different accounts of him. So some people say he doesn't have any facial structures, and some people say that they can see his mouth.
Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and I'll jump on board and say that perhaps that Slender Man is from the same race as Indrid Cold, but that does not change the fact that I believe Indrid Cold was real in there. Because I mean, obviously, if we're saying the Slender Man is real, and I'm not sure I am. Well, I guess I kind of did say that, but. I think that it is still a very separate account.
Yeah, that's kind of an argument more for you saying that Indrid Cold is real.
Right. But just the fact that he chased the boys, like I said, it just sounds more like Slender Man than...
So you're saying the first encounter would be Slender Man. What about the other 2 encounters?
Well, the guy sounds schizophrenic.
He went to the hospital and got a clean bill of health. And like he lived like to be old.
70 something. Yeah.
And had a wife and everything.
No.
Well, his wife left him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did listen. I didn't zone out. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just one guy that like he talks to him through telepathically, and so he hears the voice and stuff. It could be real, but here's the thing. Why didn't more people know about him? Why didn't he present himself to more people then?
Because if you let yourself be known across more and more people and you become a widely known thing, it's harder to keep your anonymity. And if he is here just to be an observer, then it would make sense he would only make contact with a few people.
Yeah, but wouldn't he want to like see different lifestyles? Like he wouldn't want to just follow salesmen around. He would want to also
Maybe he
see
did.
a lawyer or what, and
maybe
then, like,
there's
a farmer.
there's different accounts from different countries that we don't know. Maybe this is just Indrid Cold is what he introduced himself to us as.
Yeah. I mean, his wife and children said that they saw Indrid Cold as well, but unlike Woodrow, they were actually terrified of Indrid Cold,
Okay,
which is kind of what led to
but that
the
changes
divorce.
things. If his wife and kids saw him too, it makes it more plausible to me.
Okay, so where are you landing on this, I guess?
Plausible related to Slender Man if his wife and kids saw him too.
Okay. All right. I'm still just like looking quizzically at Steven because I'm waiting for him to drop in with like that Indrid Cold was actually Bigfoot or Bigfoot's actually Indrid Cold or something like that.
What interests me is the connection to Mothman too, though, because for everything to be happening at the same time.
Right. Right. Well, and I mean, so in doing the research, the only real connection to the Mothman was just the fact it was happening around the same time and around the same place, right?
Okay.
And John A. Keel mostly was there researching the Mothman, but because Indrid Cold was going on at the same time, he also was researching Indrid Cold.
Okay.
And apparently there was like encounters with the Men in Black on both accounts, or mostly for Indrid Cold, but kind of for the Mothman.
I was almost wondering if like maybe Indrid Cold would have been like a rogue Men in Black or something,
Yeah,
because
you know who else wears a black suit? Slender
Johnny
Man.
Cash. Oh, yeah, Slender Man.
Yeah, there were actually some people that have speculated that is the case, or some speculate that either Indrid Cold was a Man in Black, or like the Men in Black were after him because he was interfering or whatever, because he was from a different planet.
I believe that because like the accounts of the Men in Black, a lot of times you hear about them is like they were like super awkward, weird, like space slugs in a human suit type of thing, and like didn't know how to interact with people. Whereas like Indrid Cold, you almost like get this like creepy charm from him. Like, you know, he's just got this super intense smile and like talks to people. And
the other thing too is so Woodrow was never afraid of Indrid Cold, but the reason why the Men in Black are connected with Indrid Cold is because there was one point where a couple of people witnessed someone pulling up in a black SUV and talked to Indrid Cold outside of his house. And then from that point on, Woodrow, they would talk to Woodrow outside of his house. And from that point on, Woodrow never even knew of the Men in Black. But then suddenly after that, he was terrified of them. And like he wouldn't mention anything about them, but he was terrified of the Men in Black. So I find that interesting. He was actually terrified of Men in Black, but he was never terrified of Indrid Cold.
Right. I know, like I have heard a lot of stories like the Men in Black, like showing their, otherworldly powers in strange ways to threaten people. Like this one, like there was, I think 2 Men in Black visited this person, and after they'd had their weird little interaction, they went to the sink and pulled out a cleaning chemical from underneath the sink. I can't remember what it was, but it's like, I think it was actually drain cleaner. And he like tips it back and drinks it, and then just stands there just to show him that he's not affected by it.
So in that case, the Men in Black would be like how we think about the Men in Black from the popular movies, where they
What movies are you referring to?
Men in Black.
Do you mean Independence Day?
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, it'd be Jeff Goldblum is who you're referring to.
I'm talking about the movies Men in Black.
Jeff Goldblum wasn't in that.
And so, anyway, in those movies, it's
who was in that? It was Stacy Keach or something was in Men in Black.
No, it was Will Smith and Casey Arnett.
Oh, I didn't know Will Smith was in that.
Yeah.
I think I remember Casey Arnett though.
Yeah.
But it's an agency that protects Earth from aliens. But in this case, the aliens would be like protecting themselves against Earth, kind of, and that's what Men in Black is.
What role was Will Smith in Men in Black?
I think
because I don't remember that. He was what?
He was the white one.
Oh, so kind of like reverse. What's his face in the other movie?
Are you saying he's like a white Larry Bird, or what is it?
What? Have you not
can't
seen
remember.
the movies?
What were you saying, Lindsay?
Have you not seen Men in Black?
Yeah, I've seen Men in Black. I think I've seen all of them except for the latest one.
Okay. So anyway, the Men in Black are like an alien agency that stops us from talking about aliens. Is that what we're saying the Men in Black are?
I mean, there is a lot of speculation as to what their purpose is and even what they are. Because like there are some people, as you touched on, who say that it is a human organization whose job it is to regulate aliens on Earth.
Yeah, and that's what I've always thought it was.
Another theory that they are aliens themselves, and they're gathering information about the human race and about what they know, what we know about extraterrestrial life. Then there's another theory that is a lot more obscure about that they're actually demons, they're here to basically, do their whole demon thing.
Okay.
Kind of like Constantine.
Was Casey Arnett in that too?
No, it was Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
Okay.
And this concludes our movie segment. What we're saying in short is watch Cat and Dogs. That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time with all those other movies. Cats and Dogs. That's where it's at. Also had Jess Gold. Jess Goldblum.
I haven't seen that movie since I was a little kid.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's on Disney Plus, so I thought about watching it.
Okay, it's not that good. Now I actually know that I have a way to watch it. Well, I have no idea where we're at in the argument.
I don't
That took a really weird civil turn. Having Kyle here, suddenly we're way nicer than usual. You have to stay around all the time. I haven't even thrown anything yet.
What do you think about the whole Indrid Cold story, Kyle?
Well, my first impression was when they were the eyewitness description of him. He sounded kind of like a tall burn victim. No ears, no nose.
Good point.
Perhaps disfigured mouth. But that was my first impression. But I don't know what to make
boys were
of
just
it.
highly insensitive. They deserve to be chased.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is interesting because the kids were the only ones that ever saw him like that. Everyone else that saw him is almost human, except for being the weird tallish and wide grin.
Right. It was like a year before the other sightings though. So I mean he's still
No,
having
it
to
was
learn.
1 month before.
Like I said, it was 1 month before the other sightings. He needed that month to figure out how to do the rest of the human stuff.
So was he in the same outfit each time he was seen?
Yeah, because the shiny green suit, that sounds fly.
Yeah, because it almost sounds like that's when he first landed.
Yeah, it was the shiny green suit at first, and then apparently the second encounter. Well, okay, that was one thing that I found inconsistent in the research was someone said that it was again the shiny green suit, but then other people said it was a shiny blue suit. But what I don't understand is I don't know what Woodrow himself had said. Because like I said, I didn't get that part of the research, so I don't know what Woodrow said it was, but I think he said that it was a shiny green suit as well. And then the lilies didn't mention any suit.
Oh my gosh, he's running around naked. That's way worse than everything.
Only the one daughter saw him, right?
Exactly,
and the rest was just weird stuff that was happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And they say it looked like he was driving a lantern. So was that the?
Yeah, that's one that I find odd. So let's see.
That's actually a fairly common UFO shape. They have all these different categories of shapes, and so it's not the traditional or not a lantern in perfect vision of what a lantern looks like. It's more like the emblem of the Green Lantern. How that looks, it's more shaped like that.
Okay. Wow.
I don't remember what that looked like.
It's like a
imagine, if you will,
with
a lantern. That's kind of what it looked like.
Okay, so it looked like a lantern.
Yes, but not a normal
with a
lantern.
chimney and a bulge in the middle.
Yeah. So it is imagine Chinese lantern but flatter. I'm really good at this, man.
And flaring at both ends, apparently. It narrowed down to a small neck and then enlarged in a great bulge.
See that?
I'm having a hard time imagining what that looks like.
Right, because I'm picturing
you
more
need to
like.
open your third
Do
eye.
I need to Google Green Lantern?
No. You need to open your mind's eye, and that's why we're on to my next segment. Okay, I prepared a batch of ayahuasca. I'm kidding. I wasn't able to get funding for that. We will not be taking ayahuasca.
So you two have presented your arguments, and I guess Kyle and I have to decide whether you have convinced us one way or another.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do it that way. I like it better when I just get to sign off abruptly. But let's do it that way.
I do not know. I would have
That was
more.
really decisive and
really
good. Good
well.
job. You should be a judge.
What do you think, Kyle?
Well, maybe he was just a weird looking guy in the wrong place at the wrong time.
that broke into a family's house and stood over the bed.
How dare you?
Given people were initially frightened just being in the presence of them, I mean, that's if you could speak telepathically to people, that's perhaps I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it doesn't seem like a good presence. I don't know. Is that
So you would say, so has Lindsay or Josh convinced you whether he could be real or not, or are we both still kind of on the fence?
well?
Like I said, we need to get on that ayahuasca ritual. We need to sweat it out in the sweat lodge, purge our system, and then once we come back from the spirit world, we'll have a better idea of what's going on.
Okay, so like the hardest time I'm having arguing with this is I know what I want to say. Josh is going to really roll his eyes at, but everything.
It's a podcast. I can't hear.
Like, okay, so the lilies, their house sounded possessed. It did not sound like it was the grinning man or
I
Indrid
kind of
Cold.
wanted to go into that a little bit more.
Their
Yeah.
house sounded possessed, and then the boys sounded like they got chased by Slender Man, and then the other one it could be.
So you're saying rather than this one thing, it is a bunch of other crazy crap.
Yes, I knew.
And that makes more sense
I
to
knew
you.
it would make you mad, but yes, okay. Like their house, it doesn't, like the lilies, it doesn't sound connected. It sounds like it's just some random possession or something like that.
Well, and as we know, those just spring up all the time, these random possessions.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay. As we know, something happens. Like, say I misplaced my keys. Aliens. That's
And that
not an
makes more
unreasonable
sense-
thing to have.
That makes more sense
someone
to you
rents
than
me with
possessions.
a lantern. Aliens. I forget to buy or I can't keep going back to that. My house gets possessed. Aliens. I get chased by a demon Slender Man thing. Aliens. It's always aliens, Lindsay. It's like they say, follow the alien.
Who says that?
People.
One.
Or aliens.
Aliens. The only thing in this earth, and I truly mean this, that isn't an alien is Bigfoot. Everything else, even us, we
Actually,
might
there's a
be
theory
aliens
that
too, or we might be
Bigfoot
Bigfoot. That's the two categories we can break down everything into, is like alien or Bigfoot.
It couldn't be ghosts or demons.
I wonder if Bigfoot is also on other planets, being an alien to them.
Oh, we cannot go down this rabbit hole, but there is this whole thing that, like, the reason that they have not found Bigfoot is because he is a trans-dimensional creature who is able to warp in and out of this existence.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to do that.
So does that mean that Bigfoot is terrorizing other planets? Aliens from
He's not
Earth?
terrorist.
Did you just call him?
He is
he
the
doesn't
gentle
terrorize
giant.
people. What is wrong with you?
It's you and your vendetta against the Bigfoot. We should be focusing on the aliens. We get those Baxters first.
So I guess I can't speak for Kyle, but this judge gives both of you a fail.
I think
You
we
think
get
that's
participation
because you're
trophies, right?
judgy, but
And Kyle's nodding his head that we failed too.
No, both have great cases. I just it's a tough cookie. I don't know.
It's hard to say. Like, we just need to go to West Virginia and throw lanterns up in the air.
I think going to West Virginia is a horrible idea. Let's not do that. I've been there.
You know, I looked into, or like I was saying earlier, I looked a little bit into John A. Keel, and I found some interesting facts about him.
And that's the guy that wrote a book about it?
Yeah, that's the guy who did kind of popularize most of this. Speaking of popularizing, he actually is the one who popularized the term Men in Black in one of his articles, which I did not know that was the case. He was the author of many books.
Are you just on his Wikipedia right now?
No. Okay. One of the most notable of those was the Mothman prophecies, obviously. Mm-hmm. Which is where everything concerning the Mothman the Mothman and Indrid Cold kind of comes from. He spent most of his life trying to prove the extraterrestrial visitation hypothesis, whatever that is. I'm not entirely sure, or at least he spent the first bit of his life trying to prove that. But he stated something that I found was kind of interesting. He says, "I abandoned the extraterrestrial hypothesis in 1967, which was 1 year after the whole Mothman prophecy scene happened when my own field investigations disclosed an astonishing overlap between psychic phenomenon and UFOs. The objects and apparitions do not necessarily originate on another planet and may not even exist as permanent constructions of matter. It is more likely that we see what we want to see and interpret such visions according to our contemporary beliefs.
Okay, so the government got to him too.
I was
So we're
gonna-
going to take the word
yeah.
of a government shield.
Not necessarily so. And then in a later, or in one of his books called Operation Trojan Horse, he argues that a non-human or spiritual intelligence source has staged whole events over a long period of time in order to propagate and reinforce certain erroneous belief systems. For example, monsters, ghosts, and demons, the fairy faith in the Middle Europe, vampire legends, mystery airships in 1897, mystery aeroplanes of the 1930s, mystery helicopters, anomalous creature sightings, poltergeist phenomena, balls of light, and UFOs. Keel conjectured that ultimately all of these anomalies are a cover for the real phenomena. He used the term ultra-terrestrials to describe UFO occupants he believed to be non-human entities capable of taking on whatever form they want. In another of his books, Our Haunted Planet, he discussed the seldom considered possibility that the alien visitors to Earth are not visitors at all, but an advanced Earth civilization which may or may not be human, and the possibility of interdimensional life.
You know, the amazing thing about this is that he decided that aliens weren't real and to decide to land on something much crazier.
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting turn that you don't get.
Well,
He kind of like he took all of them and said it's all one thing.
right. I was thinking it was funny. Josh earlier was making fun of me for saying, nah, this isn't just one thing, it's many things. And he did the exact opposite. He's like, nah, there's not lots of crazy stuff in the world. There's this one thing.
See, he agrees with me.
Yeah, and you just called him crazy.
Well, yeah, he agrees with me. All right, we got to end this. Well, guys, we got another one underneath our belt as we ride off into the sunset. Oh, Lindsay just fell off her horse. Dang it, Lindsay. That was about to be really majestic. Stay safe, America. Australia, do your best.